Oh, good morning, friends. It's Barbara or Doll, and I'm here today mixing up my sourdough for a loaf of bread. So it's kind of getting to the point where it's a shaggy mess, as you can kind of see here. So my starter was not ready for me when I first got up here this morning, so I had to put it in the oven with the oven light on to get it warmed up. The apartment was quite chill this morning. So my dough hook does a pretty good job of getting things started, but then of course my hands have to get right in the middle of everything. There we go. So now I just continue to mix to make sure that all of my flour is incorporated. I don't have to knead it, but I just mix it all up. So the recipe I use, I believe I got from Grant Bakes on YouTube, and I've watched a lot of the Food Geek videos as well. So here we go. Let's see. It's getting there. It still feels a little bit chill, but I will cover it and put it back in the oven to proof today because the apartment is a little cooler. Didn't we have great weather this week though? Oh my goodness. It was so nice and so warm. It felt like summer, and now we're back to what April really feels like. Cold, wet. There. Do you think that's ready? I usually don't take very much time in this. There. So I think that is ready, and I'll just grab my reusable shower cap, cover it up, and then pop it in the oven. Let's see if I can manipulate my camera a little bit. So there I am. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So I'm just going to take a second to wash off my hands. The fun thing about the dough is that if you leave it, well, not the fun thing, but if you leave it too long on your utensils or in your bowl, it dries right out. And it becomes like paste. And it's the same on my hands, and it's the same on my dough hook, my spatula. They're soaking in water right now, and when I'm done here this morning, I will wash them up and get them dried up. I don't like to put the dough hook in the dishwasher because it dries out the wood. So I did do a short video earlier, but this is what's left of my starter. And there's enough starter in there for me to feed it tonight and have it ready for tomorrow. So what I do, I don't even bother weighing that. I add 50 grams of water and 50 grams of flour, mix it up, and set it aside for the morning. Now this morning I did have to put it, like I said, into the oven with the light on because it was so cold in here. When I tested with the float test where you put a little bit in water and see if it floated, it sunk, just like a rock. So I thought, no, that's not such a good thing right now. But anyway, there you have the beginnings of my sourdough process. The recipe I use goes like this. I start with 100 grams of starter. So if I'm feeding this little bit, 50 grams of water, 50 grams of flour, there's the 100 grams I need for tomorrow morning. So I start with the 50 grams of starter and just under 300 grams of water, usually around 285, 290. And I mix that up. And then I add 450 grams of flour. Usually it's just all-purpose flour that I bought here in Canada. The all-purpose flour is fairly high protein, so it works really well for bread. And 10 grams of salt. And I mix all of that up, like you saw. And then now it's back in the oven with the light on for about an hour. So let me set the timer for just an hour. And then I will start doing my 3 sets of stretch and folds with 30 minutes in between. And I set a timer for those things because once that's done, then I can put it back in the oven and let it proof for the rest of the day. And then around 6 or 7 o'clock at night, I'll check it and see if it's doubled, see what it feels like. Usually go by feel and how many bubbles I'm starting to see. Is the dough actually starting to rise? And from there, I'll decide, okay, so am I going to do a pre-shape and let it rest for half an hour? Or am I going to pre-shape, let it rest, and put it in the fridge and bake in the morning? Or after the rest, am I just going to pop it in the oven? So it depends on how my day's going and whether I need to be up early the next morning to be out with a loaf of bread. If I'm making a delivery, say on Wednesday morning at the church, I might bake it late Tuesday evening. But this one's just for me to go into the freezer. So I could bake it tonight or I could bake it tomorrow morning. It doesn't really matter. If you leave it in the fridge a little bit longer, it does develop more of that sourdough taste, but we're not really fussy about that. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are on your sourdough process. And is it working? Or have you even started? And if you're new to sourdough bread, I know a lot of people during the pandemic were working with sourdough because of shortages of yeast in some areas. I know when I went to buy yeast back in 2020, in early spring, like March, April, I wasn't able to get regular yeast at that time, or it was very limited. So I got some for me and I split it with a friend. I realized that if I made my own sourdough, then I wouldn't need yeast. And in fact, the yeast that I tried to work with for Easter to make some hot cross buns had gone bad. It had been in the fridge since 2020 and just wasn't going to cut it. So I'm sticking with sourdough. And I found that if I can warm up the water and warm up the starter in the oven, then I'm more likely to get a product finished that I like and that I enjoy. I'm also getting better at seeing exactly what that proof is and how long it's going to take. I don't go so much by time as I do by feel and by look. So when it's ready for me, I feel it's ready. So I will quickly just grab a loaf here. This is the loaf I baked yesterday. Dun, da, da, da. So the bake's kind of shiny. I did score the top a little bit, but not too much. Not too much. Because it wasn't cold. If I had put it in the fridge for a bit and the dough had gotten colder, there you can see it's split on the side. So if I'd had a better score on the top, it might not have done that. And I do store mine in plastic bags. There's the bottom. Yeah, so that I baked through yesterday. I do have a couple of linen bread bags, but I find the bread dries out too quickly for me. So I prefer the plastic. And those are bread bags I buy on Amazon if you're interested in knowing. Bread bags. Yeah, the cloth just kept them way too dry. So I didn't really like that. So what's on my plan for today? Today is traditionally my Sabbath. I've been off on a reading week, so my Sabbath will be a little different today than it might have been. And daily bread, as it implies, means daily bread. And the end of this week, I'm heading into Kitchener to spend time with family there. And I'll miss a couple of days of baking and prepping starters. So it'll be good to have some in the freezer. So I will continue daily. And right now I have one, maybe 2 orders of bread. So if you've watched this far and you're in the local Hamilton area, Hamilton, Ontario, and would like to test one of my loaves of bread, they're $5 each. If you want raisins, they're $7. And a portion of that goes to the United Church Mission and Service Fund through our local church. So that's where the bread is. So for this week, daily bread right through till Thursday. I'll mix Thursday, put it in the fridge, and bake that when I get home on Saturday. I'll be working on some English paper piecing. I'll be knitting. I'm still working on a sock. And I'll be doing some spinning this week. It's going to be cold, chilly, damp, so probably staying indoors more than I would like. But I think that's everything for now. I'll see you in the next video, but until then, God bless. Bye for now.